Hello, hello, and there we go. Happy Thursday. No. It is our coffee time, and today you might be able to tell, but my coffee is actually empty, so I get to replenish my coffee cup. But we're still going to go ahead and get started with our coffee talk today, March 12th. Okay, amazing news that we have. So we're going to start with the news we have here. Realtors, which side you want to look, are getting bulled up. So what if the real housing market signal isn't interest rate, but what realtors are actually experiencing on the ground right now? Because thousands of agents across the country report something interesting. The market isn't crashing, but it's changing. And that actually creates opportunities if you understand what's happening. So the Realtors Confidence Index is a monthly survey sent to over 50,000 real estate aid professionals across the country. It gives insights into what agents are seeing real time. Here are the key signals that we see. Homes are receiving about 2.2 offers on average, which is down from the frenzy of prior years. Homes are taking longer to sell, around 46 days on the market compared to shorter timelines before. Remember, those are averages. Some are actually just taking longer. Buyers are less likely to waive inspections or contingency, meaning negotiations are coming back. And about 27% of purchases are still cash, showing strong equity buyers remain active. This is what we call a rebalancing market. For the past few years, it felt like seller list, buyer rushes, multiple offers, no negotiation. But now there is a breathing room, more time to evaluate the property, more room to negotiate repairs or credits, and more strategic financing options. So, in other words, this is when smart buyers start positioning themselves. So, instead of asking, is this a good time to buy? A better question might be, if buyers now have more negotiation power than they did 2 years ago, how might that change their strategy you would use to purchase? Because sometimes the opportunity is not just about the interest rate, it's the terms you can negotiate. We're seeing scenarios like seller credits for closing costs, rate buydowns, price reductions, concessions to help with financing. These didn't exist much during the peak competition time. So, here's a real question to think about today. If the market is shifting from chaos to strategy, are you positioning and are you positioned to take advantage of it? Or are you waiting for the perfect market that historically rarely shows up? So every situation is different. If you want to look at your scenario, your income, your equity, your timing, book a quick strategy call with me. You'll find the link in my bio. Sometimes the opportunity is not obvious until we actually run the numbers together. Okay. Let's go to topic number 2. And give me one moment. I have to change the background so you can relate to it better. Technology is amazing, but it takes a little bit of clicks here. Okay. Topic number 2. Most housing headlines tell us what already happened. But what if we could see where the housing market might be going next? And then you say, well, tell me, right? There's a newer metric called the Highway Housing Index, and it tracks early signals like loan locks, mortgage demand, and buyer activity. And the March update is showing some interesting data. The Highway Housing Index looks at real-time mortgage market activity, things like loan applications, rate locks, mortgage pipeline activity, lender demand. These signals often appear weeks or even months before closing show up in housing reports. Right now, the index is suggesting buyer activity is stabilizing. So buyer activity is stabilizing and slowly increasing. Not a frenzy, but a shift. When activity begins to rise again, it usually follows a pattern. First, mortgage applications tick up. Then, more buyers start shopping. Then, competition slowly returns. The interesting window is usually right before that momentum builds, because that's when buyers still have negotiating power, seller concessions, and less competition. So many experienced investors don't try to time the exact bottom of the market. Instead, they watch for signals that activity is starting to turn. Because historically, the biggest opportunities often happen before the headlines change. So I want you to reflect on a few things. If buyer activity begins increasing again over the next few months, do you think prices will likely go down or stabilize? And if competition increases again, would it be easier or harder to negotiate with sellers? Things to think about. So markets rarely give a clear signals that says, now is the perfect time. But they do actually give clues. So when we look at data like the Highway Housing Index, it helps us understand where momentum may be heading. So if you're watching the market and wondering, should I wait? Should I start preparing? Let's look at your numbers and your timing. Sometimes the best strategy isn't rushing. It's simply being ready when opportunity appears. Of course, book a time for us to connect. The link is in my bio. All right, so we've got about 2 market updates. Now let's go into, let me just it's here. You can get a real feel for my space, different, as I am actually right now in Florida, in Weston, still with my empty cup of coffee. I'm actually holding off because I want to step into coffee shop here. And if I did that, I wouldn't be making it to the talk. So therefore, I am postponing so I don't have too much caffeine. So, all right, our coffee talk number 3. And this is really because lately I've had more of those conversations with seniors, homeowners who are over 62. So, what if the most powerful financial tool many homeowners have right now isn't their savings, but it's their equity? And the interesting part, many homeowners don't even realize what that equity can actually do for them. Across the country, homeowners, especially those over 60, are sitting on records levels of home equity. Many purchased homes 10, 20, or even 30 years ago. Prices have increased dramatically, yet their income today may be fixed or limited. So you have this interesting situation. A homeowner may have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but they still feel financially tight each month, despite the fact that, of course, prices of things, but it's that fixed income, limited income coming in, and obligations still existing. So when most people hear reverse mortgage, they immediately think, isn't that when the bank takes the house? But that's actually one of the biggest misunderstandings. A reverse mortgage today is simply a way to access part of your home equity without required mortgage payment on a monthly basis. The homeowner still owns the home, lives in the home, and keeps the title to the property. The loan is typically repaid later when the home is sold. So this can usually This can be useful in several situations. For example, you can supplement retirement income, paying off existing mortgage to eliminate monthly payments, funding healthcare needs, helping in home repairs, and creating a different financial situation, a cushion. Sometimes the goal isn't more debt. Sometimes the goal is more breathing room. So here's something interesting to think about. If someone has a $500,000 in equity, but feels financially stressed each month, which it does happen, would it make sense to at least understand what options exist to use part of that equity with a strategy? Not necessarily to do it, but simply to know what the options are. So we often think of our home as a place to live, but financially, it can also be a resource. The key is understanding how to use that resource wisely, because sometimes the biggest opportunity is not buying another property. It's simply unlocking the value of the one you already own. So if you or someone you in your family is 62 or older and owns a home, it might be worth exploring what their equity could do for them. Not to push a decision, but to explore, to understand the possibilities. So, of course, book a call with me and let's go over your numbers. Sometimes clarity alone can change the way someone approaches retirement. Okay, our last topic, because we've been speaking so much about equity. Speak more about that. Many homeowners have spent 30 to or 40 years paying into their home. That could be the long term, or that could be by purchasing and growing into their home. But very few ever ask this question: can the equity in my home actually create income for me? Because for many homeowners, especially in retirement, their home may actually be their largest financial asset. Millions of homeowners today are sitting on significant equity. Some homes were purchased for $150,000, $250,000, and they are now worth 500 to 700,000, sometimes even more. But this is the interesting thing. Many of those homeowners are also living on fixed income. So the wealth is there, but they just locked into the home. So again, let's go ahead and reassess how we can go ahead and help those homeowners breathe and get that freedom. But the real topic that I want to go over now, the last one, is mortgage rates in the sixes for people who have credit cards with interest rate of 24%. And this is the interesting thing that I see quite often. A homeowner might say, I don't want to touch my mortgage because my rate is good. But then when we look closer, they may have credit cards or personal loans of 20 or 28% interest rate. So the question becomes, which debt is actually costing you the most money? Credit cards today often sit around 22, 25, even 29%. That means if someone carries a $25,000 balance, a large portion of the payment is pure interest. Meanwhile, their home might have $200,000 to $300,000 in equity. Where strategy comes in. Here's where some homeowners can explore options like line of credits, a refinance cash out, because when you take the first mortgage rate, even if it's 3%, and compared to the credit cards, that's maybe $25,000, $50,000 with a 20% or like we talked about, 25%, the blended interest rate in payment is higher than if you were to refinance and get a rate in the sixes. So really, of course, numbers is where it's at, where we look at what you're currently doing cash flow versus what you could be doing. Interest works in two directions. It can either work against you or work in your favor. And sometimes homeowners are paying very high interest in one area while sitting on resources that could reduce that pressure. So here's the question worth thinking about. If someone could reduce their overall monthly debt by restructuring high interest rate debt, what would that do for their monthly cash flow? First, that's on one-on-one, where we get together and create that breathing room if it's possible for you by looking at those numbers. So many people focus only on the mortgage rates and they're trapped. And there's a bigger picture I want you guys to think about. How all of the pieces of your debt work together. Sometimes small adjustments create a much healthier financial structure. And I'll leave you with this. If you are on a salary and you do not have bonuses, or not only the bonus, but there's a commission and all those are extra income that you can aim to pay off your debts, you have to be disciplined, definitely, to know when I get that money, I will pay off the debt, and hopefully nothing else will come that would actually be in the way of paying that debt. Then when you're restructuring by doing a refinance, a cash out, or HELOC, which are interest deductions versus credit cards are not, this is where you can improve your cash flow and start seeing better light at the end of that tunnel. So if you're a homeowner and you are carrying credit card balances, personal loans, high interest debt, it might be worth looking at the numbers together. Again, not a rush or anything for you to really say, hey, I have to do this. No, this is just looking at the options that exist for you and see if it makes sense. Again, book a call. Let's go ahead and chat about this. All right, so we have come, still an empty cup of coffee. I might actually do a live from the coffee shop that I will be going to and ask you to just watch this video, which might not be as hype as I might be because I am running on the low coffee here, actually zero, just water, which is great to start the day. So this is where I usually ask you if you are not into this mystical aspect of life that Kristel likes to talk about, you can disconnect. If you're curious, you can stay. Either way, it's your choice. But this is where I go into a couple of what we call grounding, breathing. And what comes up right now is I invite you to look at your environment because the environment gives us so many clues, right? So you have my background right now that's orange. I'm in a hotel apartment in Weston, Florida. And on my right, which I'm going to bring it up, hopefully without disconnecting it, I have my second screen. So I have a traveling screen. So I actually need to probably start doing my tools review. So this is portable, secondary screen. But the reason we actually brought this up is because we're going to actually look without disconnecting it. Make sure I hold it. It's plugged, so it's hard to move it. Where's the camera yourself? Wait one moment. Oh, okay. This is can't move it. So there we go. This is the image I was looking at as I was talking. And you can tell when my screen was on the right, it was a little bit of a distraction when I was looking at that. Because this to me, okay, just get a feel for it. And I'll get you my feelings. Okay. So when you take a deep breath and center yourself into your heart, into yourself, and my invitation is we move so quickly into our day, into our life. And unless I'm being told this is a Picasso painting, I may not really take time for it, right? Because Picasso, we know it's like, wait, let me reflect on this. But sometimes it's a simple image that's being is brought forth. This rhino for me is the groundedness. I really wish I could keep that image so as I speak about it. But oh, I have an idea. Give me one moment. See if I can do this. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I do believe we can see the image. So, it's the start of a day. Lonesome. Kind of have that horn to be ready for the day. But the ears are perked up too. The things that I get to do, the places that I get to be. But there's also that heavy animal, right? Which is let's ground ourselves to the earth, receive the rays of the sun, smell, feel the environment, that light. And you can see the light is really on its back, but then there's the groundedness. I believe this is the eye right here. Anyways, not really sure. So I want you to really, from time to time, just stop and just observe a simple image or something that's just right in front of us. We don't have to go far. What is this image reflecting back to me? And it's not in movement, so I'm barely moving because I haven't had that cup of coffee, right? But in preparation, the reflection, the moment to ground and get ready for a day ahead. A lot of times we either go on automatic with the work, like I have my, with the consistency we need also, my morning Thursday coffee talk with Kristel, mortgage updates in this little section of really speaking from my heart of what comes up, being spontaneous, not a preparation of what the market is doing. And I invite you to do this for yourself because what it does is it allows the imagination, it allows integration with the environment, and it allows for being spontaneous because the magic of life is also in being spontaneous. The magic of life is also in assessing this is what's in front of me or around me. Grateful for it before I charge and move forward. So the message really today is being in appreciation and gratitude for the environment that we have, the people who are in those moments. I had a great coffee yesterday with someone I hadn't seen in a couple of years. Then I have energy of the person who's traveling with me right now, parent, which sometimes it's the routine of their ways and their aging and family. And then there is obligations of the day. How do we put all those together? I best start my day when I go within into my heart. And there's a reminder recently from a YouTube video that I saw, which I'm going to invite you to do. So I've spoken about grounding. And I really want you to plant your feet on the ground and imagine, even as you look at this rhino, the earth going up the feet. The energy. You may or may not actually feel the energy, but allow yourself, be open to it, don't judge it. Thinking about my dad that I've actually asked him to, do you feel something? Like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about, Kristel. But then after a few times, he's like, yeah, I feel a little something. Like exactly that little subtle something. The more you do it, the more you get to feel. but don't judge if you don't. So I'm going to stand up a little bit. And this is where I'm going to encourage you to basically allow your feet to be grounded and feel the energy going into your legs. And you're breathing it all in. We're going to actually breathe all the way into the top of our head and open our arms. So breathing it all in. And when you come up, hold, and just lean back as much as you can. And you reshake. I can go further, but I want to be able to, you can hear me. But you really want to lean back as much and allow your body to feel the shake, to feel the movement. You're basically releasing that stagnant energy that's inside of your body, letting your body feel, and then breathing back in. So we're going to do this again. Go until you can't almost breathe. But of course, when you know this is it, come back, bring it down. Do this a few times. Some call it the life force spring breath. I believe it is also shared by Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. But you can start your morning and have maybe like a 1 minute or 5 minutes of doing that breath because you're moving things around. The first time I did it from this week, I actually had a crack in my chest because what it does is it opens our heart. We are breathing that air. So when you're holding it and then you're releasing, you're creating a circulation. So we used to not even think about breathing. Breath is a healing element because without the breath, that's it. So take different techniques of breath. And that is a form of meditation, right? Meditation is not just quieting, it's taking that moment, silence, let me stop my brain. No, meditating the air through the bottom of your feet all the way into the body, releasing it out, opening to the heavens, opening to the infinite intelligence. When you're breathing back in, whatever you've actually circulating. So I just want to leave you with that. As I am continuing a travel to get back to the island, this is something that I get to practice for myself. So thank you so much. And I look forward to sharing more information with you. If this information is valuable, well, it's quantitative if it's valuable. It is valuable information. So I invite you to go ahead and share with friends and family. Please do subscribe. You know the rhythm with YouTube. And I look